This video is sponsored by Factor. So there was this cartoon that came out in February of 2023 that seemingly the entire world hated. It was torn apart immensely, even before release, and there's not a single soul that seemed to like it. All walks of life, all backgrounds, every person on the planet hated this cartoon. And you might be asking, what kind of thing could do that to people? How can something be so universally hated by the entire world? That makes no sense, right? And well, the answer is Mindy Kaling. Nah, I'm kidding. It's a lot deeper than that, but the answer is Velma, the most hated thing, ever. The thing is, I watched the entire show, and while I'm late to the party, but I have some things to say about it. Because it used to be the worst rated thing ever on IMDb, and I missed my chance to be a part of that. Now, it's only like the 4th worst rated or something, which, well, still sucks, but hey, they're moving up. Maybe by summer, Velma can reach maybe the 6th worst, or heck, even 8th if it wants to be ambitious. So if you haven't heard about Velma, it's the newest entry into the Scooby-Doo IP, but this time it's a cartoon series focused more on an adult-ish aspect with swear words and violence and other R-rated aspects. Ooh, spicy. Focusing less on the Mystery Incorporated aspect and being yet another origin story into the gang going to school and doing stuff. And there's no dog, no Scooby. It's just our lovable cast of characters in their own coming-of-age world. That all sounds kind of interesting, right? Well, that's where it ends. This show is, like I said, hated, and it's hated by everyone, absolutely everyone, all walks of life, all backgrounds, all demographics. Pretty much anyone who is alive and breathing has a distaste for this show. And if I see one person commenting they actually like this show, I might frame you and put you on my wall like a rare specimen because you are the last of your kind. When Velma was first announced, I was actually very excited. Hearing a new Scooby-Doo property being planned with more adult themes and different spins on each character had me intrigued. I mean, there's already thousands of Scooby-Doo projects, all of which keep pretty much the same vibe and theme throughout. The same old gang doing the same old thing, just sometimes with crazier set pieces here and there, or crossovers to have a fun time. But the Scooby-Doo formula is honestly perfect, which is why we have seen it done over and over and over again with slightly different variations here and there. Having these characters exist since 1969, we've gotten to see the best version of each member of the Mystery Gang. So when hearing something promised to be new and fresh and an original take on the entire crew, I was all aboard. But now after watching pretty much all of Velma, I have to say, this is actually the worst cartoon ever made. It is. It's really, really bad. Listen, I'm all for new spins, fresh takes, different dynamics, all of that. But Velma as a show has nothing to do with what the basis of Scooby-Doo is or who any of these characters actually are. These characters are the Mystery Gang by name and clothing alone. They don't act like who we've seen for decades now, but they don't replace those known character traits with suitable ones instead. The changes of this show are for the worse, and that is a universal take. I've never been so straight-faced while watching an animated show. Not once did I exhale from my nose or grin or even gasp or anything. Instead, I sat there watching each episode go by and wanting my pain to be over. I begged, I winced, I cried, and I suffered. I wanted to make a video on the series from the very beginning. From announcement to release, I knew it was going to be an interesting moment in pop culture. To start with the original announcements of the show, there was instant outrage over race swapping. Having a bunch of bigots pay their rent by making so much content and Scooby-Doo becoming woke garbage. Velma is now Indian, Shaggy is black, Daphne Asian. Oh god, the horror, oh my god. This really pissed off a lot of people, as it always does. And this is just simply by the announcement images alone. I'm never one to care about race swapping. I just don't understand how you can get mad at a change before you even see it realized. It's just dumb to get mad at, and anyone who got mad at those aspects are just stupid. They're just stupid. But right from the gate, this meant that Velma already lost a demographic of weirdos, but it started to seem like this show could appeal to a more progressive audience. Oh yeah, that's fine by me. Let me get some change. Let me see something new and modernized for this world. I'm fine with that. But then the clips and trailers started to release, and yeah, it lost the other demographic too. It started to seem like this show predicted that kind of bigot mentality, but then made it the entire point of the show while insulting audience members and alienating both sides of the political spectrum.
If there is one thing the internet agrees on, it's that you should never change anything ever. I hope you die. Sincerely, Velma.
It was almost like it wanted to bait anger from people before it was even made, which kind of left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Because really, have you heard anything about the actual show besides politics, besides anything like that? Have you heard anything about story or music or animation or just it being a TV show in general? Have you even heard anything about that besides the political conversation? That's something that just surrounded the show and took a hold of it, and no one even cared about it actually being a show, which is a bad sign from the start. Everything shown about the show just seemed like it wanted to be a fourth wall breaking meta humor analysis on the current state of the world, calling out bigots and racists, but doing it in such an annoying way that simply just no one can defend.
At least Judy's still white.
And this is just from the trailers. The first episode didn't even release yet, and this is where we were at. So everyone was just dogging on this show, even though there was no dog. So we're not really off to the best start with this show now, are we? But I still held out a little hope, thinking all of the cringe and terribly written meta humor was just the focus of the trailer and not representative of the final product.
But also that he was just another entitled rich guy who might kill someone because he has a tiny dong.
Yeah, no, I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. And so I'm making this video today to break down every single episode. So together, me and you can find out just where this show failed and why it doesn't work. How did it become this bad? And is there any part of this show that is worth redeeming? It's me and you in this together. Hold my hand because it's going to be a tough one. The show begins with the titular character, Velma. The show is of course from her perspective, which is why that's the title, dummy. But I have to say, the voice performance from Mindy Kaling is pretty good, and along with the rest of the cast, do a pretty good job with their performances. They actually are voice acting.
What? No, she was my plan B if you ever got too clingy. What happened?
I know there's always some annoyance when big name celebs are casted for voice roles because sometimes the different acting styles don't really translate with a lot of people, but here you'll find that pretty much everyone sounds great. Okay, that's enough praise. From the intro, you find out that the Velma of this show is already a different Velma than what we're used to.
Yeah, it was me, not Fred and his weird sex fan. This is my story, told my way.
Velma is usually highly intelligent, into science, very curious about everything in the world and what goes on. Here, she still has all of those interests, but in a way that the show punishes and reduces to her just being a nerd and how lame she is. It's insulting. Yeah, that's it. They kind of dumb her down even though she's supposed to be the smart character. Velma opens the show talking about her origin and how this isn't a typical origin story because she's not a hot girl or a handsome guy. And you know, instead of just showing that, it has to tell us that. You have to remember that's how the show is going to be until the show ends. And you know this because of the strong use of the B word to end her opening. The B word, the B word. So we then cut to Daphne in the women's locker room. Daphne in this show is much more brutal and mean than we've ever seen her before. Unlike the eager to help, clumsy, privileged, stuck-up girl of the original Scooby-Doo content, here Daphne is a mean, popular girl who is popular. Daphne talks about how first episodes of TV shows always have too much nudity nowadays. Meanwhile, she is nude, and the other girls are too. Oh, meta, very meta. Episode 1 in particular relies on meta humor to get this show started and kick it into drive. While the rest of the season still has this type of humor and annoyingly lazy fourth wall breaking jokes, it's really just the first 2 episodes that overdo it to a point where I'm not surprised that anyone just stopped watching here. I could be wrong, but I think they dropped 2 episodes a week, with the first 3 being dropped at once, and the first 3 is where everyone just stopped talking about it. They threw the most annoying things at you as soon as you press play, and the only real diehard fans made it to the finale, or I guess the real soldiers that toughed it out and survived. I'm the latter, or at least I feel like I am. So Daphne gets in a naked fight with another girl until some masked person hits her with a hockey club. This masked person turns out to be Velma. What? Why is she assaulting Daphne? I don't know. But they argue for a moment until they discover a dead body in the locker room. Whoa. Within the first 3 minutes, this show has established its adult nature right in your face as hard as it could, which is fine. It showed nudity and there's some gore and curse words, all of that stuff that normal Scooby-Doo properties don't have, but this one does. Now that's a way to bring you into a show with its gimmick. It's not bad, but the entire show then plays out just like this intro, which becomes very, very exhausting very quickly. The show is an origin story, but doesn't present any origin to establish. The characters we meet are just instantly aggressive and hateful to each other, which is a layer of cynicism that will not go away no matter how much they bond by the end end of this season. It's just a weird way to start your show. It makes the audience feel like, should I even be watching this? Do I even want to be a part of this? Like, here I am to be enticed in a story and be entertained, and I'm just mad. Grr. But speaking of grr, all this hateful talk is really making me hungry. But luckily, I could fix that with this video's sponsor, Factor. Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh meals right to your door. They are never frozen, allowing for the best quality right from delivery to heating up and enjoying. For anyone who's too busy to cook or needs a consistent diet, Factor is the perfect way to stay on track while still eating delicious food. With keto to calorie smart to dishes packed with protein, there are over 34 chef-prepared meals to have you trying something new each week. Factor meals are actually just really yummy, I'm not gonna lie. This chorizo chili one was especially my favorite. The flavor went crazy. It went crazy. And this jalapeno lime cheddar chicken was delicious, like actually very good. Head to factor75.com or click the link in the description and use code 24frames50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. 50% off your first Factor box with code 24frames50. Do it. It's good. It's actually really good. I kind of like Factor a lot. We then see Velma is brought to a police station waiting to be questioned until
Brenda, Velma.
Oh, crazy moment. I wonder what that was, huh? Weird. Oh. Here we learn that Velma's mom is missing and has been for 2 years. Velma is blamed for the murder of the classmate we saw earlier, and she has 24 hours to find the real culprit or else she is going to jail. The cops are also Daphne's moms conveniently, and we also learn here that Velma hates Daphne now. Daphne ditched Velma to be popular, which sucks because Velma here is not popular. She's a nerd, and the show will emphasize this to you like the warning label on cotton swabs. I'm still gonna stick them in my ear. I don't care. And I don't care that Velma's a nerd. She's always been a nerd. That's her thing. We then meet Fred, the lovable himbo leader of the crew, reduced to a trust fund baby. It's lame. These changes are just not enticing. They're just like, why? Why would I want to see this? Yeah, handsome Fred who cares about his friends 24/7. Screw that. We need a rich jerk guy who sucks the whole show, and that's the point of his character. Yeah, great change. So far, we have met 3 of the original gang to see their changes. And honestly, none of them work, except slightly Daphne's. They all feel like different people. Not different perspectives, different takes, or different elements. Just straight up different people. Fred and Daphne seem to be having a rough patch where Fred does not want to do dirty things with her, which puts a barrier in between them. Velma then has another scary moment, and these scary moments are Velma's panic attacks. It's an element used throughout the show in a very out of touch way, but we'll get into that. At home, Velma talks to her dad and stepmom, who gets nude in front of her to take maternity pics. Wow, can't you tell that the show is so laid back and edgy? It's so fun. Yeah. Velma needs to figure out how to solve this mystery or else she is going to go to jail. We get a flashback of her trying to solve a mystery of her Christmas gifts, and she thinks her mom got sad because she figured them out and that made her leave to go get more presents, and that's why she's now missing. This is all just in Velma's head, obviously, and we'll find out more about it later. It's an interesting idea to attach Velma's love for mysteries to her mom growing up, and making that the point of panic is also a good idea, but it's ruined by really poor timed comedy that has no place in this show.
Wow, after hearing that, I not only feel emotionally hooked, I understand the stakes of your journey, Velma.
It almost feels like they were making a dramatic animated show and then someone got a hold of the outline and threw a bunch of outdated comedy in the mix without thinking of the actual tonal shift that might constantly happen. Because you can have a dark comedy, you can have something be a dark story but also still be hilarious, and this does not juggle that well at all. We then finally meet Norville. You know, normal Shaggy who loves the devil's lettuce and eats a lot and lives in his own world and loving life? Nah. Instead we get someone who hates the devil's lettuce and is obsessed with Velma. See, to flip Shaggy as a straight edge guy is actually a good idea, but yet again, it's not utilized for anything other than the initial shock that this character is different and maybe like 3 jokes sprinkled throughout for each character of the gang in this show. If you stripped away their designs and clothing and even voices and just tried reading the basis of who they are on paper, you could never tell that it's someone from the Scooby-Doo universe. You can only tell that's the case because they remind you of the different versions of themselves any chance that they can get.
I think it has something to do with drugs, which I hate.
Anyways, it seems like Norval might know a way to solve the mystery of who killed Brenda. She thinks it might be her stepmom, but that turns out to not be true. The dad says that Velma's mom just left them to leave them and not because of Velma, which leads to a Dua Lipa psycho memory montage. Why? Psycho's a psycho, la 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 la. The kids love Dua Lipa. They love Dua Lipa. You know they love Dua Lipa. It's a montage of Velma being annoying to her mom and then thinking that's really what caused her to leave. This, for some reason, now hold your horses, it leads Velma to drop the mystery investigation and become normal. And what is normal, you may ask? Dressing hot and walking down a high school hallway. Okay, yay! It does not last long. But Velma then starts to suspect that Fred is the killer. She and Norval break into his house, but in doing so, causes Velma to have a panic attack. And the best and cutest and most heartwarming way to fix a panic attack is to make a joke. Yep, Norval says that he likes her, and that's a solution for her. This is a common theme that will happen throughout the show. It's a weird and kind of just lame way to show a character struggle with something actually real and just discount it for a joke. It really just highlights the issue with the show, that even in the serious moments, it can't take a second to not ruin the joke. Pacing and timing is absolutely lost on this show. When the panic attack ends, Fred finds Velma and reveals to him that he has a boyish body, like a child's body, and it's weird, and that's why he's insecure. Velma takes this as to the reason why he might have killed Brenda, but he gets shot in the leg by the cops, and it seems that Velma is innocent. Yay! At the end of the episode, when all seems fine and dandy, Velma finds another body in her trash bin, killed in the same way as Brenda. Whoa, twisty and turny. Whoa, mystery deepened. Let's go. So that's episode 1. It's your introduction into this world and universe, and it's a very aggressive one at that. It's an episode that feels stuffed with awkward pacing issues and awkward characters. It's so self-important where it feels almost impossible to become immersed in any aspect. But that didn't stop me because I'm a masochist. But overall, I give this episode a 1.3 out of 10. Episode 2, Woo. Yay! Woo. It seems Fred will be going to court soon with Velma's dad representing him as a lawyer. The show makes us know that he has a tiny penis. This means he's the killer.
Fred's a rich white guy with a tiny dong. He did it.
I mean, okay. Do I have to comment on that further? Velma... All right. Velma wants to get a file from Daphne, which shows a small glimmer of friendship that might still remain. Daphne says that she'll only get it for her for $500, and we cut to Fred talking with Velma's dad lawyer. Velma's dad says that they should make Fred seem more innocent and boyish-like for the court appearing, with very in-your-face jokes about him already being a baby boy. The best thing about this show is when they make a joke and they beat it into your head what it means and why it's funny. We see Norval live streaming snack reviews, kind of like Munchie moments of other Scooby-Doo properties, and this is like really the only kind of shacky joke you'll get for the rest of the show, so hold on to it, guys. Velma asks if Norval can give her money, and he makes it his mission to go get her that cash because he's in love with her. Daphne and Velma then negotiate on how she can get money for her, and it's like a very awkward Me Too joke, like, okay.
Exactly. I spit truth without a filter, like every comedian before #MeToo.
Look.
It turns out that Daphne is a drug dealer and Velma starts selling drugs for her. The drugs are named after the iconic Scooby-Doo catchphrases like Zoinks and Jeepers. This show is basically equivalent to SpongeBob's smoke shop art. Isn't this show so adult and edgy because it's taking the old innocent parts and making them drug and sex related? Oh. Wait, you know what else is edgy? Random Hitler mustache joke on Fred. Velma and Daphne run from the mom cops, and there's a moment of romance where they touch hands. Whoa, everyone relax. Is Velma gay? No, I'm not watching anymore. I'm not watching Velma gay. What? We see Norval go through crazy stuff like selling his liver and almost dying. Basically, I'll sum up Norval's character as Todd from BoJack Horseman, doing insane stuff for the B story and still being a naive, innocent, cute guy, except Todd still has immense depth despite his comedic moments. There's a joke here about stoners that love watching Norval's streams, and he's like, oh, why? Because it's not like he's shaggy, it's the munchies and the weed and the munches. Velma and Daphne get away from the cops and then blush while canoodling. Whoa. They bond for a moment, and then Velma almost sells drugs to her dad. This leads for her to help him prove Fred's innocence and realizing he isn't the killer because he can't do anything for himself like an actual adult. This actually angers Fred, leading for an outburst outbursts in the courtroom and having the verdict still be guilty. This courtroom scene is actually really funny because Velma emphasizes how privileged Fred is. That's not something that has happened in the show yet. So when she does it here, it's really funny. It's totally not something that's happened 400 times whenever she's monologued about someone's privilege out of nowhere. Nope. But the episode's almost over, and not before Velma has another panic attack. And instead of fixing it by just have Velma laugh at Norville and make a joke, instead, the best way to fix this one is to have Daphne kiss Velma. The day is saved. Yeah, woo, woo, woo. Yeah, they're kissing. They're kissing. They're putting their lips together. Yeah. It's so sad because these panic attacks seem like actual dramatic weight that could be utilized well for this show, but it's just not. And putting Daphne and Velma together could also be a really good thing, but why do they use it like this? The animation of the scary ghost demon thing that messes with her is actually really good, especially when compared to the ugly, stiff nature of the other characters in the show. But all these moments are just used for poor jokes or weird ways to further along romance, which just why? If you're gonna have Daphne and Velma reconnect and bond, you did so throughout the episode in almost a really good way. Small moments sprinkled throughout that could have become one big moment that isn't like this, but to do it like this just makes it feel so worthless. I genuinely think if you just had them kiss without any panic attack thing or anything, just have them lead up to a kiss at the end of this episode, you would have had a lot more people be invested about where this show is going, because this is episode 2 and everyone dropped it after this. But if you made this moment a good moment, it would have been a lot more intriguing for everyone who wants to see this kind of dynamic be played out finally in a Scooby-Doo property. You almost had it. You almost had it. It's right there. You're so close. Norville sees this and gets all sad, and that's the end of episode 2. I'll give this episode like a 1.7 out of 10. Better than the first, but still very bad. Very, very, very bad. Episode 3! The episode begins with a kiss from last episode. Velma is in shock and has a narration about the audience wondering if she's gay or not. Velma being gay is something always requested in the Scooby-Doo IP, especially since the live-action movies implied it without directly saying it and changing it from just not being an actual thing even though it was gonna be a thing. So having Velma be gay is a great validation for everyone who's been asking for years and years. And yet, this show really loves to make sure it's still somehow messing that up by making it really just a joke like everything else in Velma's life. When you have a character's entire life be a joke without any single break to be serious for a moment, kind of ruins any engagement any audience member could have. It's sad because when Velma goes to school to talk to Norville, she talks about Daphne all cute like, which is nice. It just sucks to see everything else besides this handled terribly.
That's huge! Though not you might be gay huge.
Okay, stop. In this day and age, you can't speculate about someone's sexuality unless they're famous or Peppermint Patty.
There's a mental health seminar held in the gym with Norville's parents as the speakers. There's some funny stuff about them only spending 3 minutes on mental health as a requirement. All women at the school now need to take a self-defense class hosted by Daphne's mom cops. Velma hates all of this and rushes to talk to Fred and visit him in prison. I'm conflicted though because with yet another panic attack, it shows off really good animation. If you ignore its placement in the story and what it truly represents and just appreciate it for the visuals alone, then it's really well done. But during visuals like these, we have Norville in the background yelling about if he should kiss her or not without consent like Daphne.
Should I kiss you like Daphne did? Without consent, I'll remind you.
Like really? Every time? Do we have to do this every time? Do we have to keep doing these kind of jokes every time? Velma and all the girls go to a self-defense class. The two main girls are pitted against each other and this makes them nervous, so they talk about it in the bathroom. They talk about if they actually like each other or not, and neither of them want to admit it and they both get angry at each other. This moment is actually good. This is one of the first times in the show where the characters seem to be given actual depth between relationships without ruining it with a joke. It even includes a nice little transition back into the self-defense class where they fight. This moment is the one time I will give the show a thumbs up. Good job, Velma. Good job. After defense class, we cut to Fred in prison with Norville. Norville attempts to give him therapy as a way to find more information about Velma's mother, and meanwhile, there's a tournament going on with Daphne and Velma beating a bunch of girls' butts and trying to prove something about themselves respectively. Woo! Daphne talks to Velma about not wanting to get with her because she has more at stake, aka she's popular. This leads for a big climactic battle between them, but that doesn't happen. Instead, you know the big moment earlier between them that I said I really liked? Well, here's the part where it's ruined for me. Velma takes advantage of it by talking crap about Daphne in front of the crowd. It's a weird way to give this episode zero resolution and prove that both these characters still suck. The point of them right now is that they like each other but won't admit it because of their own recollections. But that small moment in the bathroom is the only time where it feels really important to the show. At the end of the episodes, both the characters agree to just be friends and not complicate things. Oh yeah, and Velma also has feelings for Fred for some reason, and that's not really explained or shown besides her mentioning it to Daphne twice in this episode. Like, why? Why is this even an aspect? Velma then makes out with her hand, and that's the end of episode 3. It had one moment where the bad comedy just shuts up and lets it deepen the characters, and then everything else besides that goes back to pointless garbage that made everyone drop the show and hate it. This definitely is a better episode compared to the first two, but still, it's really annoying. And so for that, I give it a 3.1 out of 10. Look, that's a whole 2 points higher than the first two. Maybe this show has some hope. Maybe it gets a little better. Maybe we all judged it too soon. Maybe instead of the lowest rated thing ever, this is simply just a very average and very mid show.
Episode 4.
The episode begins with the cops saying only hot girls are being killed, leading for scathing social commentary from Velma like the first episode all over again. So they're all tasked to make a list on who's the hottest at the school, that way they know who's in danger of being killed. Velma is the one tasked to make the list because she is ugly. Because she's not hot, she's nerdy, she's mid! This is something the show has never said or emphasized before. So this episode reverts back into the edgy sexual content for comedy's sake, like the first two episodes. I kind of liked when it was kind of missing somewhat from the third episode, but we're back to the same kind of stuff here. There's more social commentary again from Velma about guys setting the standards for beauty norms for girls since the moment they're born. And like, okay, why is that the basis of your show? I'm just so confused. Someone help me understand, please. Yes, this society has a billion issues, but this conversation being in this show honestly adds more damage than it does anything to heal it. This show loves to use all these societal talks as really shallow comedy rather than actually make something encapsulate these takes that it's trying to make. If it has these deep political and social commentary takes that it wants to push forward, there's so many better ways to do it, and it could go about it so much smarter. It could actually make it a part of the plot and a basis of the show rather than just use it as terrible jokes. Fred is released from prison and Velma uses him quickly to make a hot list. And yet, after asking him to do this for her, Velma then gives him a book about the feminine mystique. So like, you ask him to do the shallow thing, but ask him to be a better person after you get what you want from him. Are we supposed to be rooting for Velma as a character?
Anything else I can do for you?
Yeah, maybe read this.
This whole episode is her being mad at the shallowness of her town, but setting it up in a way that makes all the girls feel terrible for being hot and attractive. Velma has to teach all the hot girls how to not be hot by being interesting people and finding passions and stuff to like. So yet again, crapping on attractive people and saying they have nothing about them that makes them interesting. It's the bitterness and jealousy placed on Velma that makes her so annoying and makes this show annoying. She's supposed to be a character with flaws. Yes, she's supposed to be making mistakes, but she's still the protagonist. And the basis for making a protagonist is making them likable. Even if they are a bad person doing bad things, you still want to see if they could get better or if they go deeper down that hole. But there's such a barrier to even see that unfold with this person. But wait. Here's the twist. Everything I just said for the last 5 minutes is the purpose of this episode. The hot girls call Velma out for slut shaming. They call her out for being shallow and restrictive. So that means that this episode is actually genius and smart, and all of my complaints are invalid because her arc in this episode is learning that the hot people can still be people. But no, using a safety net such as this moment does not excuse you from your garbage, especially since this has been the case since the first episode without these kind of safety nets. Will Velma have actually learned something from all of this to go past this episode and keep it in her heart for the rest of the season? No, she won't. She remains shallow and superficial like she has been. While you can have tiny arcs like that in shows that are episodic and don't really connect in a broader sense throughout the season, but this show has a continuous story. It has a continuous arc to could go out throughout the season. And having her just be like this in just one episode and we don't see it again means that this was just pointless and lazy. Velma's stepmom also goes into pregnancy and has a baby, and Fred has a crush on Velma, and now Velma no longer likes Fred and rejects him. And that's the end of episode 4. Honestly, a worthless episode that reminds me of everything I hated about the show from the moment I started watching it. I give it a 1.2 out of 10 for just being so pointless, so annoying, and having almost no redeeming moments except for the ending where there's a cute goth girl named Gigi. That's why I give this episode a 0.2 more than I otherwise would. Episode 5, yeah. So now we're already reaching the halfway point through the season, and looking back so far, this show has done absolutely nothing interesting. With characters to hate and a plot going seemingly nowhere, now would be the time to kick this show into gear and get things moving along in some way. So let's find out if that happens. Velma's hallucinating and having panic attacks, and we see that Norval won't text her back and talk to her for some reason. There's still a murder on the loose, and Velma's getting nervous about it. There's a curfew tonight, so the streets aren't safe, but luckily she'll be safe since there's a band camp sleepover tonight. Meanwhile, Daphne is going on her own hunt to find out where her real parents are. This part is the closest Scooby-Doo-like moments we have actually seen in the show thus far. She breaks into a mine reminiscent of old classic locations from older shows, and she finds her parents dressed up in suits from old Hanna-Barbera days. This part's pretty cool. It's okay. I like the feeling of it all, and the set is coolly designed, but screw all that. We have to cut back to Velma, and Fred is trying his hardest to impress her and help her. She's annoyed with him and tries to find Norval, and it turns out that he and the goth girl are dating? This dynamic brings to light that Norval doesn't want to be used by Velma anymore simply to help her just because he liked her. She never appreciated him, and this is just evident. But this isn't a dynamic that is earned, and something I honestly just roll my eyes at. These characters, none of these characters like each other except for Velma and Daphne, even a little bit just in those small moments. Setting up actual drama between these characters is so lame since there's nothing to make the audience really care at all. Fred finds some info on Velma's mom and finds out that the mom was researching some mad scientist before disappearing. The band camp sleepover I mentioned earlier was canceled, but since Velma wants to get Norval to help her and is jealous, she makes it happen anyways at her house. All the marching band kids are more stereotypical nerds with pimples on their faces and talking all weird. Like, what else do you expect? What else do you expect? You think they can put nerds in this show without them being this kind of bad trope? Meanwhile, Daphne reads up on her parents on who they might be, and it seems like they might be classic Scooby-Doo villains, making that a part of her. That's a fun little change. I would like to actually see where this goes. Taking the classic Scooby-Doo villains and making them a part of Daphne is pretty interesting, and I'm hoping the show does something with it. Velma and the goth girl Gigi have tension, and Velma begs her to have Norval help her. Gigi tells Velma that she doesn't like how she treats Norval, which, yeah, that's something constantly happening in the show, but once again, this isn't earned, and is honestly introduced way too early in the show to feel any weight of Velma having to realize how she treats her friend. Velma manipulates Norval yet again in an effort to help her. Gigi says, hey, don't simp for her again.
If you do any more simping for her, we're through.
Okay, writers, very relevant word choice. Yep, everyone's still using simp. We're totally still saying simp. Yep, you should add more of that. And he's like, no, I'm simping for myself.
I'm simping for myself.
A purposeful cringe moment that makes the characters cringe, but makes me want to put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger, because this is such a lazy way yet again to not have Velma learn anything as a person and revert back to old ways. The only semblance of this is Velma saying, wow, Norval, you're a better person than me, and then all of them trick some curfew cop to save the day or whatever. This moment is supposed to be her being selfless and helping them all get away and whatever, but it's a hollow attempt to rid her of any consequence. This show really lacks any depth whatsoever, that it's jarring every time you think there's going to be something noteworthy, and then there's nothing. And really, these are the only elements I could talk about, because the humor, the comedy, I can't talk about it, because if I did, I would be here for years. I would spend years breaking down every joke that feels like a 10-hour lobotomy when you realize that these writers write like ChatGPT attempted to make an edgy cartoon, except ChatGPT would probably be funnier. Daphne's parents reveal who they are to her, and the dad turns out to be the one guy that Fred knew in prison, and there's like a whole gang of people in the creepy mines. Whoa, whoa. And that's episode 5, an episode that annoys me a lot, but it's actually setting something up with Daphne, and I'm slightly interested to see where it goes. No matter how crap the main character of the show's story is, at least there's something kind of going on here with Daphne. I give this episode a 2.4 out of 10. Episode 6. Velma learns more about some stuff from Norval's mom and how she was a scientist. This flashback holds a lot more Scooby-Doo references, such as the government experiment about meddling kids and a project called Scooby. Yay, great way to work all this in, guys. So Scooby is like a thing where they wanted to put soldiers' brains in meddling kids' brains, but it doesn't work because snapping fingers or something. The scientist woman went insane, and that's what Velma's mom was investigating before she went missing. So all the way on episode 6 is when we start to get more info into this mystery. And we get this big information event at the beginning of this episode just by asking someone casually. Wow, great and creative way to do this for a bunch of detectives. They put so much effort into the bad comedy that when there's actual elements to move the plot along, the majority of the revelations and conversations just happen in a boring or annoying way. Annoying like having Velma hallucinate before finding out one more key element about her mom from Norval's mom. These hallucinations, these panic attacks, are so key to the obstruction of Velma's revelations. They are so key that they start to feel like a cop-out to not get the point out yet because they need the pad time to fill the episode's runtime. They're not obstructions that feel like Velma needs to overcome or accept and give her character a more interesting arc. They're obstructions to waste the audience's time, and that time isn't filled with something worth it, trust me. So we cut to Daphne mining alongside her parents and the rest of the villain gang crew thing. Their goal is to sell crystals to make money or something, but it seems they ominously talk about Daphne's cop moms in a jealous, spiteful way. Ooh, scary. Ooh. Wait a second, it's been a while since we've had some edgy cartoon sex jokes, so Velma and her dad eat at a strip club diner. Now that is funny. Why is the diner a strip club now? No reason. There's actually zero reason. It doesn't fit in with anything else. It's not related to anything. It's just funny. It's funny that they're eating at a strip club. Isn't that funny? It's funny, right? Just because it happened, it's funny. That's how things work. There's a montage of Velma and her dad hanging out together mixed in with other references and stuff. What a placement. What a nice placement. Okay, I'm glad they acknowledge that these things exist. I just don't understand why they're referencing things now. Some stuff happens where Velma and her dad fight, and Velma goes to look at more information about her mom. And this time, no hallucination. The excuse for no hallucination is related to her dad. It has never been before, but now it is. Because now the episode has gone on long enough so they can randomly move the plot forward again. But this is the new key information that turns out to be nothing of note, and it sounds like a ghost hurt Velma's mom and stopped her from investigating what she was investigating. Meanwhile, back with Daphne, her parents turn out to betray her and get arrested by the mom cops. But just the birth mom gets away. There's also the shirt of the dead girl from the first episode down in the mines for some reason. Whoa, interesting. Mystery deepened again, I guess. The truth of Daphne's parents is that they abandoned her and the mom cops took her in. It's a little sweet, and besides like one ill-timed joke, it feels like another moment that the show slows down to be a story for a second. We cut back to Velma and she's exploring this old lab to find stuff about her mom with Fred. Her dad shows up and finally believes her that the mom was really kidnapped, and this cures her hallucinations for real and good forever and permanently. Yay, what an incredible, terrible element that added so little to the show to leave the show in such an easy way. So stupid. It's so stupid. It's all so stupid. There's a little note on the ground that says Jinkies that makes him think that she was just here, and then the episode ends. But not before Daphne's mom is almost killed by a guy with a knife. Oh no, it's scary. It's scary. He's a killer. Where's the killer's on the loose? Wow, I'm so invested. It's getting good. It's getting good. Let's go. This is what I've been waiting for. 2.7 out of 10. Episode 7. Now this episode starts a little different. With Velma's recap, it encapsulates her feelings about the entire season and what has happened so far. It's a small little moment to show that she's actually kind of getting exhausted, leading for a moment of sympathy that quickly passes. Her parents prank her that the mom died, and turns out that there's a huge party tonight called Fog Fest, like a foggy prom, a festival of fog. Norval asks Gigi out as a date to the Fog Fest, and Velma is against even going because it doesn't feel like the right time to celebrate. Then there's an actual good flashback of Velma as a kid with a friend. Wait, what? This moment isn't ruined by a terrible joke or anything. It's literally just an innocent flashback that furthers Velma as a character a tiny bit? What? Whoa. This is episode 7, and it feels like an immense breath of fresh air. Heck, maybe I'm going insane, but the comedy in this episode, at least for the beginning, is not that bad. There's a part where Fred just throws money at Daphne, asking her to Fog Fest. I think it's actually really funny.
Ow! What the hell, Fred?
Go to Fog Fest with me, please.
Daphne agrees and shuns Velma out as she gets ready to go out. Velma then gets a call from the serial killer. Another good moment ruined by a very tiny joke, but I'll let it pass this time since I'm in a good mood all of a sudden. Velma actually does some classic Velma brainstorming and deduces where the killer is by the background noise on the phone.
Okay, Velma, what did you hear? There was a crowd, a roller coaster, and a foghorn. Oh my god, the serial killer is at Fogfest!
The first time we actually see Velma be a little smart in the show, rather than just yell or read very spoon-fed information given to her. She goes in disguise as a guy so no one knows that she caved in and went. The Fogfest takes place at a carnival, and I actually really like this setting. It's colorful, has good atmosphere, the outfits of the characters are actually pretty good for the event, but Velma almost ruins it with her typical anger towards the popular people. But she's literally cut off and ignored.
But that's such a double standard. Every day at lunch, you're like, hey, mayonnaise isn't soup.
We've never met before, but I'm Olive. As in, Olive to party.
So it's kind of saved? It's kind of funny? Oh, heck, it even actually gets really funny because we get to see Fred and Norville beat each other's ass. Velma runs into Daphne very drunk and has her go into the dance room. In the dance room, Velma takes the opportunity to make sure everyone remembers that there's a serial killer still on the loose. And here's the part where Velma loves her disguise as a man and uses it in a montage as the ultimate power. Like, dude, I thought we were so close to just having a normal episode that furthers these characters. Come on, please. Like, okay, like really okay. I get it. After some dancing, we see Velma and Daphne outside, where Velma catches Daphne all romantic like. Ooh. Daphne then vents about everything that's been going on all season to her. They almost kiss, like an actual kiss. Whoa! Cock blocked by Fred. Oh man, oh jeez. Daphne sees that it's Velma and Fred airs this out to everyone else at the Frogfest. Norville is crowned king and his girlfriend is seen getting attacked in the fog. No, not the goth girl, man, come on. It's always the goth girls. Daphne and Velma then have a good moment together under the pier, an actual good moment where they forgive each other and it's not ruined, but is really well timed, interrupted by a serial killer. Oh, ho, ho! I like the serial killer's design. It's simple, reminiscent of old Scooby-Doo guys that just grunt loudly with industrial type clothing. And then Norville and Fred are seen running around going crazy doing a classic Scooby-Doo door scene. And here it's not made fun of, it actually kind of fits because it's in a crazy door area in the festival, which that's not that bad. They even play classic music with classic sound effects and classic visual effects. I don't know why this episode feels the most authentic to Scooby-Doo as a whole just now, 7 episodes into the show, but we could get here eventually. It's because these references are also organic and tie in with the story. They're not just used as an edgy joke to be drugs, but it doesn't really last long, and we see Norville and Gigi have a sweet moment together again. And Daphne and Velma, and then the episode just ends. It just ends. No bad joke. Nothing. It just cuts the credit. What? I don't know what the writers were cooking, but this episode has actually been my favorite so far. I still wouldn't call it good or great or anything, but this was the most I wasn't annoyed or put off by the show. It's a win. It's a win. It made me feel like I was watching an actual show with comedic elements and a slightly dark story that kept me engaged. The edginess took a backseat and the very shallow societal takes were at a minimum. This episode was not bad at all. I genuinely would love if the entire show was like this. A show all about this would be awesome. Just a couple crazy jokes sprinkled throughout and a story that feels worthy of this group and who these characters are. It's just amazing what a difference this is to the beginning of the season. I give this episode a 5.3 out of 10, which is so much higher than I was expecting, but let's go, man. I'm slightly more excited to see if this gets better. Can the show pick up the slack towards the end and feel worthy of my time? Episode 8. The episode begins with a flashback of Velma and Daphne as a kid and Velma wanting to be super close with Daphne since the start. It cuts back to the Fog Festival and Velma says, "I'm happy we're friends again." It then cuts 2 days later to them being trapped and mad at each other again. And all this intro is actually really funny and has good timing. It's actually intriguing. And it cuts between them being trapped and leaving the Fog Festival to how it led up. Now, you see me all happy about this, thinking it's randomly really creative and fun and stylized. realized, well, they ruin it. They frickin' ruin it. Back it up, folks, back it up. They break down the fourth wall about every single second that you're watching.
You're saying if this was a flashback in your point of view, in order for it to be earned, we'd have to cut to, I don't know, Fred?
Exactly.
I like it when they use a title card with the character's name when they cut to a different flashback.
Now that feels lazy.
It's stylized. It's Tarantino.
They talk about the flashbacks and transitions and title cards and go on and on and on about them like they're so impressed with themselves, completely making all the good feelings I just had about that intro so hollow. It ripped my heart out of my chest by going on for a minute about how cool they are for doing this rather than just continuing like normal and actually staying in that intriguing light. Then even the title cards get annoying too, continuing the meta humor and saying the literal things happening on screen. Come on, you had me. You had me. Why are you doing this? Every single time I praise this show for a moment and not crap on it, it destroys all of the praise that I give it. Then this entire episode goes back to the same plot structure and humor and vibe as the beginning of the season. Velma goes to Daphne's house to talk and the hot girl is there and Velma is jealous again and she fakes a freaking panic attack again. They cut back to everyone stuck again and we see Norval and Gigi are there too. So now we get their flashback. Woo! Norval says crappy things to Gigi and makes her upset. Daphne already finds out Velma's faking panic attacks and her and Gigi both walk out mad. This eventually leads for everyone to fall down the hole and get stuck together. When the flashbacks are over, they fall down the hole more and Norval does a dumb thing and attempts to save Velma from a falling rock instead of his own girlfriend Gigi. Oh yeah, and during this whole episode Fred discovered that all of the murdered girls had their brains stored in jars and he talks with them. It's actually a little interesting. And then Daphne and Velma find Fred down there with all the brains, but the entire cave starts collapsing. There's a really lame joke about her jumping a tiny gap and it just is not funny. It's not funny. But when she makes it and starts to fall backwards anyways, she is saved by her mom? What? It's her mom? This is when you're gonna reveal that she's alive and back? What? This is so lame, so uneventful. This is just nothing. This came out of nowhere. I'm like making it sound more crazy than it is, but the way it just happens in this episode, there was no build up to this. This has been such a lame and boring episode that has felt like filler until right here. In this episode, they just created conflict that was already resolved 30 times between characters in the last couple of episodes, and it just rehashes the same drama until we get to this point. So everything you just watched was just pointless. It was just pointless. Just watch Fred's scene and then assume that Velma just showed up here. And this is how you bring her mom back? Like this? Like this? Really? Okay, sure, whatever. Then she makes all of them get in a van that's like the classic mystery van. They all make it out alive with the brains and stuff. And when Velma asks what happened to her mom for all of this to happen, she just says she can't remember, which is a stupid, lazy way to cliffhang to the next episode. It honestly seems like it's fumbling the bag it was finally making for itself. It started to have me interested towards the end of this season. I actually was kind of liking where it was building and going, and now it just feels so lame again. I don't know how you can have the mom finally show up in the show like this. The entire show has been about Velma searching for her and hoping she's alive. You have done nothing but make this a focal point, and yet this is the episode that she's a part of. It just sucks. It just sucks. 2.6, I'm just annoyed. I'm annoyed. Episode 9. Alright, so there's 2 episodes left of this show. 2 episodes left in this season. Can it please, for the love of God, bring it home and make it worthwhile in the end somehow? All this time, energy, resources, everything wasted on this show. Please, can it just make it worth it here and now? So at the hospital, we see the entire crew in the hospital room with Velma and her mom. It's time we find out what happened here, but not before Velma makes another white guy joke out of nowhere.
Just being a white guy with a clipboard doesn't cut it anymore.
Dude, come on. I get white people suck. I get it. Like, we suck. But even now, you're still doing it. You're still doing it. Like, please, man, please. Please. The gang trashed the house to try and bring back her mom's memories or something. Daphne and Velma talk about being girlfriends, like for real. Whoa. This moment is cute and they almost kiss, but not before Velma throws her out since her mom comes home. Velma's mom starts to remember a couple things, but the mom starts to feel sad on missing out on Velma's life. But since Velma's Velma's life has sucked butt from her obsessing over her missing for so long, she can't tell her the truth, so she keeps remembering things and stays happy. Meanwhile, at school, there's stuff going on with the girl brains and the popular club, and Daphne and Fred seem to be banned from all the groups now. We then see Velma use Norval yet again, like nothing has changed, but it's different this time because she says thank you. A very small change, but at least this show is finally showing an ounce of character arc. It doesn't account for much because Norval still gets the bitter end of the situation, and that's all for him, so he stays flat until the end, but whatever. The mom realizes that the dad had a baby with someone else, which starts to freak her out, but Velma claims that the baby is hers and Norval's. Because of this, Norval goes all ooey gooey over Velma again. He really just gave up on his character, huh? You had actual good and interesting stuff going on with Gigi, and we got to learn more about Norval respecting himself and everything, and how to deal with others, and the writers just canceled that and went back to the episode 2 Norval. It's sad, they just completely didn't know what to do with this character. But at least we get to see an actual moment between Velma and her mom. They talk and have a moment that's genuine and sweet. God, a whole show like this would be awesome. Daphne learns about them faking the baby, and she thinks that this is a good way to become popular with Fred again. What's going on? What's going on? This is the second to last episode. You had like 4 recent episodes with a clear goal and momentum, like it was pushing to something and building to more, and then after revealing the mom like this, we're back to the unfunny cartoon with nothing deeper. If I'm going to review this like an unfunny cartoon with no overarching story that it sometimes has, well, let me just tell you, it's really unfunny. It's the same joke over and over again without any spice, any flavor. It's so bland and dry and makes adult humor lame. When all that very boring stuff is finally done, we cut back to Velma's mom having a memory about the killer. They think it's Norval's dad, but it turns out not to be. Well, okay, alright. And then we cut back to Daphne and Fred and we get another white guy joke.
If white people are now the minorities on campus.
That's 2 in 1 episode. Let's go. Let's go. Yay. Woo! Woo! Eventually, they all go to a party and Velma crashes it, and she's mad at Daphne after learning that she's in a fake couple. But then the mom also shows up and learns the truth about the baby and the affair and blah, 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 blah. The mom then remembers the killer out of nowhere. Oh my God, she remembers. Oh, she knows who it is. Who is the killer? Who is it? But it cuts the credits before she says, so you gotta watch more. You gotta watch more. Wait, no. The credits cut back and it's her. It's her. She's the killer. What? Whoa. That episode was worthless, unfunny, boring, anticlimactic. All of it was awful except for one tiny moment. 1.6 out of 10. So here we are, episode 10. The final episode in this amazing show. It has been, well, a journey with surprisingly a couple highs, but then nothing but low lows. And those lows were very, very low. Heck, maybe that's why it's taken me 3 months to even make this video, because I just didn't even want to think about this show. It's a show that has made itself a chore to watch, on purpose, setting up barriers of cynicism and anger before you can even watch it. But it's time to see it through to the end of my life, because I'm gonna freaking kill myself. So Velma's mom is arrested and everyone hates Velma now. It turned out that her mom wanted to put Velma's brain in a popular girl's body for her to be popular. That just sounds like an annoying plot point for the villain, but I'll wait to learn more, I guess. Then there's some stuff with Daphne and Fred's mom, who just appears out of nowhere because she's been absent for 8 episodes. I wonder if she's the villain. I wonder if the show is just randomly putting her back into the show and we just have to assume like that's fine and that she's not gonna be a surprise villain later, and it's just ruining the twist for us right now. I wonder. Oh, great twist, guys. We didn't see that Fred bought the mystery van thing and painted classic Scooby-Doo colors reluctantly. I like this moment too. It's an organic way to bring in more elements of classic stuff. Velma gets arrested on purpose and Daphne wants to save her. Norval is really peeved off right now and Daphne finds a note from her birth mom. Velma talks to her mom in jail, but the mom turns out to be hypnotized into saying the popular brain swap girl thing. Daphne busts her out of jail and shows her a pocket watch from her birth mom. This cuts to the show explaining that Velma's early panic attacks were part of her being hypnotized to freak out all the time when she wanted to investigate mysteries. What a twist! What a twist! Oh my God, what a twist! Then there's a tiny romantic moment between Daphne and Velma again, but still it's interrupted. And then you know what? They actually talk all cute and funny, like they're actually dating, and I enjoyed it a lot. God, a show all about this stuff would be awesome. Then a throwback to the first episode, we see all the girls naked showering again. Oh, then Gigi is back finally and tells Velma how she's been a bad person to Norville forever. Will she have finally learned to be a good friend for real only in the last couple of minutes of this show? Norville switches schools and turns out to be at a really cool school. Velma then listens to a bunch of Norville's voicemails and why am I crying? I'm crying. I'm tearing up.
Hey, Velma, it's Norville. Who's got 2 thumbs and wants to say good morning? This guy.
I'm tearing up for them in this cute moment. Why? It shows Norville being cute with always updating her on life, and she appreciates it and realizes herself finally. This show sucks. It's awful, but I'm crying. So weird, man. That's so weird. It's one of the worst shows ever made, but I guess I'm just a sucker for big moments like this. Velma finds out that Fred's mom and dad are behind this from her glasses and goes to find a lab. She then drops her glasses like old classic Velma. Haha, alright, I kind of like that. I like that. It's really about the timing. If you time them well and don't force them as an edgy garbage, it's really not that bad. The killer guy attacks Velma, but she fights back and wins. They tie them up and we get like a whole Scooby-Doo classic of finding out who it is, tearing off the mask and stuff. Yeah, I like this. I really do. They unmask the mom and she reveals the whole brain swapping project thing and that the original doctor got mad that she got no credit because of Fred's family. The original doctor sabotaged everything and made them broke. But then Fred's family came back harder than ever with the mom to recreate the project. So it's really just the mom who's bad and the dad is hypnotized and fine. She then gets Velma tied up and wants to swap Velma's brain with Fred's. So then at the end of the season, you know what we have to do? In order to get Fred to rage and break free, we need one last heroic hurrah from Velma doing another privilege rant.
I am so sick of rich guys like you, not only not realizing how much is handed to them, but still thinking they're the victims when they mess everything up because of their lazy entitlement and fragile egos.
Woo! Yeah! Let's go! It's the last one! Woo! It's actually really funny to imagine Velma in multiverses using this as like a super move or something. I don't know, I just want to see that. They all escape and Fred goes after his mom all mad and upset. The mom tricks Fred and Velma and Daphne are about to die? What? No, oh no! And then Velma and Daphne kiss? Whoa, for real and good and so romantic? What? They're kissing, the girls kissing. They're kissing, guys. But then Velma says, I love you, Norville. Whoa, what? Okay, it's actually spicy, actually interesting. I'm genuine right now. I think this is a good moment in the show. And if you're gonna put a love triangle in the Scooby-Doo gang, this is pretty interesting and fun. God, a whole show like this would be awesome. Norville shows up and saves the day, and the mom dies violently by a crushed rock and ooh, the day is saved. Now, that's also a good way to end the show in a very funny, edgy way. It's a shocking good timing that feels right to be crazy and violent out of nowhere, unlike other times in this show. The whole gang gets keys to the city and Velma and her mom kicks out the dad and the stepmom. Everything seems to be fine and dandy. Fred even is starting a little gang of mysteries or something, and let's end the season. Let's end everything we've watched with men better than women joke.
You got a sharp brain.
Thank you. That actually means a lot.
Yeah, almost like a man.
Yes, sir! What an amazing ending! Oh, yeah! And with a mid-credit scene, there's a setup for season 2 with another killer. And that's the show. I'm done. I'm free. Oh, wait, I guess I gotta rate that episode, right? Honestly, I'd give the ending of the season, the big season finale, a 6.4 out of 10. I'm not kidding. I thought it was a genuinely interesting episode that had good pacing, good moments, good humor and timing, great callbacks while still maintaining its own identity. It was actually a good episode. It was very much the best episode in the show. Even despite the classic annoying parts, it had me engaged. So let's tally these scores. Let's see where that lands us on our own IMDb ranking. So if we do the math of all those pretty numbers and get the average, or in geek terms, mean, we come out with a 2.8 out of 10 as the rating for the entire season. Yay, 2.8, let's go, man. That's so much higher than the official IMDb score. Woo! Woo! Velma's not the worstest thing ever. It's just like slightly the worstest. This show has been an absolute chore. And while there has been highs, mostly banking on the old love for the IP as a whole, getting to those highs seemed like an impossible task. It's a show that feels like it doesn't want to actually exist. It's fighting against itself to be watched because it wants to be canceled and die. It seems almost on purpose or tested to be this perfectly crafted as the ultimate bad show. The good moments seem like opening the fabric of time and looking past this awful show into a glimpse of something interesting and engaging. It tries so hard to be funny in times that make both parts of the show uninteresting, the plot and the comedy. Over and over again, it lacks in timing, just throwing out a set combo of unfunny things at you to break a pacing like a broken piece of AI. Characters in this show suck, but they suck on purpose. Velma doesn't learn on purpose. Velma doesn't learn until the very last episode because it had no way to fill the time with boring jokes unless it kept her as a bad person. And she's not enjoyable to watch. You don't want to see her be a bad person because it's just not fun. Then when it finally could end and let all that go and just exist as a show that wants to entertain you, then when it could finally end and let all of that go and just exist as a show that wants to entertain you, it finally gives each character a little more depth. For the most part, every joke in this show misses. It really never lands. And be ready to not like a joke and have them reuse the exact same joke 20 times in the same season just to make sure that you really understood what they meant. It's a show so filled with takes on society, but fails to encapsulate the viewer into wanting to be on their side. Rather than making that the point, or theme, or message, or overarching narrative, they never make a metaphor or deep take that encompasses an entire episode story as a whole. Instead, it loves to interrupt the flow and time and rip you from its immersion by just pretty much reading a tweet verbatim and then moving on. There are so many shows that just do this better. They address the exact same issues, the literal exact same, while still being funny and an entertaining show. It's not impossible to make this kind of stuff funny. You can make it funny, but you just didn't here. You just didn't, and you were lazy. You did not bother to think further on a joke to get across what you wanted to say. This show is just insulting to everyone, every person that takes breath every day. This show hates you and doesn't want you to watch it. And you think I'm exaggerating, but you try binging this whole thing, man. You try it, please. Just try it. It's not gonna work out. But with all of this, there are still good moments. When it's not being annoying or lazy or in your face breaking the momentum, when it just slows down and focuses on the characters. There are moments that make you remember that you have emotion and stories still exist, because it's hard to remember that while you're watching every other second of the show. Let me tell you that. When it focuses on Daphne and Velma, or Norville and Gigi, or even the ending of Velma, when it really just shows us that it cares about the characters it has, then it's nice and enjoyable and a fun watch. Notice I never mentioned Fred because he's also thrown away here. Quite literally dropped pretty much into the background just for jokes, and I just don't get it. The one who put together the crew in the originals and always shown his love for his friends around him just gets nothing here. Nothing to shine through the crap, not even once. Pains me because I recently saw the concept art for all the characters recently. How they originally were gonna look in this show breaks my heart because we didn't get this. Look at this. These characters on design alone have so much more personality, so much more style. You can literally see a story on their faces just from this alone. Instead of a show looking like this, we get this. One of the ugliest looking shows I have ever seen. It's so stiff and plays it so safe. So safe. There's not much from Velma that could ever get me to recommend it, and honestly, I understand why it's so low on IMDb and everything else. It's a show that takes very beloved characters that have existed for decades, and it makes you feel like a dumbass for ever liking them. It acts so much like it hates its own identity, sometimes turning lovable aspects of the past into insulting, disconnected jokes. This show could have used its identity, its Scooby-Doo identity, and given us fresh takes and spins while keeping the things that we love that make Scooby-Doo what it is. It could have given us new stories we haven't seen, but still doing what we love the most. But instead, they wanted to make a very edgy, unfunny, and boring adult cartoon. I don't really like Velma all that much, and I probably will never watch it again or season 2 whenever that eventually comes out. You just didn't need to make this. You didn't. Maybe one day we'll get a show like this that actually wants to be adult, but also a good show. God, that would be awesome.